Being an introvert isn't that. The time we spend alone holds an importance in our lives. Being alone gives us a chance to recharge, to reflect, or to prepare ourselves for whatever will come next. I've always had an introverted nature. Don't get me wrong, I really do love talking to people, which is something you'll come to realize if you ever talk to me one-on-one. But once I've been talking or socializing with someone for a good amount of time, this feeling of exhaustion washes over me. I feel completely drained, even if I really was enjoying the conversation. I use the time I spend alone to recharge. It's like I only have a limited amount of battery power, and once that runs out, I need to take some time to gain that energy back. The second after a sentence comes out of my mouth, I'm thinking about how that sentence sounded, how I said it, if it was rude. I have a list of worries that I'm constantly cycling through my brain, which is why I love being alone. It's peaceful. When you're alone, it seems like time just slows down, just a bit. Unless you're doing homework, then it speeds right up. Although most people enjoy the time they spend alone, there's a fine line between being lonely and being alone. In my last 2 years of middle school and my first year of high school, I was alone. A lot, and it bothered me. But it didn't bother me because I didn't like being alone. It bothered me because I felt like I didn't have a choice. I had just moved from another country, I didn't know of any homeschool groups, and I'd lost the friends that I'd made prior. I felt stuck in the situation I was in. It's not like I went to some kind of private or public school where I could have social interaction all day, every day. Being alone mixed with the depression I was already struggling with combined to create what felt like misery. I think William Wordsworth's poem, I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, explains this well. Wordsworth describes a scene he once saw. This beautiful, flower-covered landscape might be his imagination or a comforting memory. The scene he describes is peaceful, calm, happy, and notably free of other people. He's alone, but he's not upset about it. His isolation isn't something he's upset about, it's something that might give him peace. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. Beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze, continuous as stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not be but gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon the inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. Being alone is not unhealthy. Sometimes it's a choice, and sometimes it's a need. I'm sure those of you who have siblings or live in a crowded space or just feel overworked value your time alone, to some extent. I know I value the time I have alone, which is something people don't always expect. I'm an only child and my parents both work. I'm alone pretty much all the time, from the time I wake up to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I am alone and I'm fine with that. When you're alone, the only person pressuring you to do anything is yourself. But there comes a point at which it can become unpleasant. As we've learned in this class earlier, human communication comes natural to us. Even if you can't exactly talk smoothly, you're probably communicating something to someone. If you have a lack of human communication in your life, you might have a growth of the feeling of hostility toward being alone. A lot of people, especially those who classify themselves as extroverts, feel this. They start to feel like they need more human communication in their lives. The subject is touched upon in O Solitude, a John Keats poem. The speaker in the poem talks to solitude as if it were another person. The large presence solitude has in this person's life isn't something that's ideal, but it's not something that he's upset about. He's fine with his life the way that it is, until the end of the poem. At the end of the poem, he realizes that his life would actually be better with another person in it, even if it's just the one person. O solitude, if I must with thee dwell, let it not be among the jumbled heap of murky buildings. Climb with me the steep, nature's observatory, whence the dell, its flowery slopes, its river's crystal swell, may seem a span. Let me thy vigils keep, Monk's bow is pavilioned, where the deer's swift leap startles the wild bee from the foxglove bell. But though I'll gladly trace these scenes with thee, yet the sweet converse of an innocent mind, whose words are images of thoughts refined, is my soul's pleasure, and it sure must be almost the highest bliss of humankind, where to thy haunts two kindred spirits flee.